Okay. Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? I hope everybody is really good because we are. We're pretty good. How you doing, Christy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd like you all to welcome Christy Lynn. She's from Foul Play. Oh, kind of just everywhere, I guess. Maybe you might want to say she's a big supporter, and she's done us all a great big favor. She listened to every one of those calls.
I
Every
did.
one of those calls that came through, this woman's ear has been upon. Like you could see through from the thumbnail. She's got phones hanging everywhere. She had a lot of calls going on. So, Christy, if you could tell us what made you even be involved with support of Stephen and Brendan, or wrongfully convicted, as you might say.
Well, I had watched Making a Murder. I was a little late. I didn't watch it when it first came out. And I wasn't really sure at the end of it. I had questions. I couldn't tell if it was biased on the defense or I just had questions. So actually I don't know why I never even thought to go to Facebook. I actually ended up reading Ken Kratz's book.
Oh my
And
God.
after reading Ken Kratz's book, I was more leaning towards his innocence than ever because the book just felt like a crock of shit. I mean, there's just no other word for it. It was,
Really? I've
I
never
had,
talked to anybody. I've never talked to anybody that's read his book ever. So that's
because
interesting.
most people were supporters before his book came out, I think, and most people refused to pay for it. I had no idea who, I didn't know anything. It was just the
Right.
first thing. I was going on a long trip. I needed something to read. This is what I'm going to read. And I thought it was going to keep me occupied. I think it took me like maybe 3 hours to read it. It's not a very long book. Um, and like I said, it left me with more questions and answers. And then I read Jerry Buting's book,
Mhm.
and I was convinced Stephen was innocent. And there was mention of, the Facebook groups and whatnot. And that's when I started looking into the Facebook groups and joining here and there. And I don't know, it just became an obsession. And I just really dug into it because, like Stephen says a million times in those calls, it don't make no sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And well, everybody probably knows how I got on it. I watched it and I thought it was a movie. I thought this isn't real. This isn't happening because I've never seen anything so, especially when it came to Brandon, I never seen
Right.
anything so shocking to me. I was like, this happens. It could be my kid, it could be my grandchildren. And this is right next door. I'm 45 minutes away from Wisconsin. Please help me. So I get it. Did you right away join a group, or did you start to research yourself? How did you really get involved with like Foul Play, which is wonderful teamwork? I everybody, the link is down below. That's where Christy's at, and you can find them and a whole lot of our community that we talk to on a regular there, and they're wonderful people. And I love their slogan, the team thing. What is it? Together.
Together, everyone achieves more.
Yes. Thank you.
Hmm.
I didn't want to screw it up because it is really wonderful.
I
So
think Zoe gets the credit for that one.
it's
Um,
always cutie.
she is. I love her to death. That's actually how I got to Foul Play. I was in, I think, just about every Facebook group imaginable at the beginning. And
Hmm.
I read everything I could. And then, Kathleen's filings started coming out and I was reading those. And I listened to a lot of people. I listened to Travis's opinion. I had listened to Tracy's opinion when she was around. I just learned as much as I possibly could and dug into the internet and read as much as I could on StephenAveryCase.org and just everything else I could read about how the law worked and what
Right.
was really happening here. Because, like you, I mean, I knew it wasn't a movie. I was just in complete, utter shock that it could happen, not once, but twice.
Yeah.
There's more questions than answers. And every time you think you have an answer, it just leads you to four or five more questions.
The
And I just
biggest way to
feel
go.
like when one thing is suspect, it makes everything suspect. So now you question everything. And that's why there's so many different theories and so many different great theories, I should say. I mean, I've
Mhm.
talked to so many people and learned so many things and had like a different opinion and a different outlook. And it's definitely opened up my theory pool. I mean, I have like
Right.
12 different theories at the time, I think, just
Oh
no
yeah.
one works perfectly. Listening to these calls has helped narrow a lot of it down.
Right.
Um, And, I've talked to a lot of others that have also listened to all the calls, because I think that I understand people don't have that amount of time. I'm fortunate.
Mhm.
I'm a stay-at-home mom. It happened to be a slow time of year, and I had the time to do it.
Right.
Um, I just feel like we learned a lot in them, and
Oh,
it's important to listen to them. They build a story.
I 100% agree with you. It does tell a story. Like I said, I think you could possibly listen to just the calls and pretty much go by, outside of knowing the evidence, because Stephen never knew, he was kind of blindsided by all this, which we'll get into. Because I know
Absolutely.
that leads up to something. So, well, anyway, I want to say thank you to you, like I do
You're
all
welcome.
of the supporters who come on here. And I appreciate it. I appreciate what you do. If you're just in there keeping company with chat, that's, to me, you're still showing some support. You're talking about it, and that is important. So let's dig into some calls.
Okay.
First, I want everybody to know that Christy has painstakingly went and made I think it was, I don't know who made it. Let's just say this. I don't know who made the summary. Did you?
I all the data is
Great.
mine. Zoe put it all together in that
Okay.
beautiful Google spreadsheet that we could share with the
Yep.
world.
Yep.
She made it all pretty and tied it in a bow for me. I
Right.
definitely did not do that part.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm talking about. It's on there from the call you start at till the last one you've done. And it gives your opinion of what the call stands for. So if you really aren't into listening to Stephen and his mom talk about just everyday thing, or going, yeah, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, okay.
Did
You hear
you
that
make
a
those
lot.
calls? Did you talk to that guy? What about this guy? Did
Yeah,
you hear
yeah.
back from this girl?
And some of it becomes very repetitive,
It
but
does.
it
It
is
does.
wonderful. So that is a wonderful spreadsheet. And I don't think I have the link for it, but I will definitely be putting it into the description box so
It
everybody can get that.
I gave it to Catnit yesterday, and I believe Zoe's in here,
Oh,
so
she
she
got it.
also has it. Yep, it's
Yep,
up
she
there.
has
I
it
see
on
it.
the chat. I can see it. Thank you, Katniss. You know how I feel about you. So thank you for doing that. So on to that, you can go on there. You can listen to everyone like me and probably several other people have done, or you can save yourself some trouble and go to the poignant ones, the ones that really caught Christy's ear and catch our ear and make our mind go, okay, then let's talk about this. So, okay, they start at 828 and go down to 839, correct? That's like the major, what you say is.
Yes, I believe there's a couple others in May preceding that. Let's see. 810, 812, 813, and 814 are like the prequel. You kind of you don't need them to enjoy the last 11, but they do play a part in it.
Right.
Um, there's another one I think that I suggest. Yes, 824 I suggest listening to. It really just sounds like Dolores has had it.
Yep.
Her and
I
Steve are
listened to it.
bickering. Yep. I mean, it's really just starting, and then it
Yep.
really starts to hit the fan at 828, and it just goes. And I'm listening to these calls, and I'm making little notes in my notebook, and I'm just like, I can't even justify doing a summary on these calls. These ones need to be listened to. It's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm
No
not.
words.
This is by no means funny at all. This is
Yeah.
the laughter is just.
It's like, yeah, I laugh when I get, I don't know how to react sometimes,
Yeah, I think it may be a nervous laughter.
Yeah.
I think somebody else has put it one time.
You can
And
definitely feel the downhill.
in all actuality, this is very heartbreaking. And there was moments that I was in tears, and I might tear up even talking about it,
Right.
because I have listened to every painstaking moment, as you know, a lot of other people have as well. I'm not trying to say I'm the only one who's listened
No,
to the calls.
right.
But the feeling that I got, and I've talked to some other people who did it, and they all felt the same thing. They're heartbreaking. You are
They are.
watching this family fall apart, because
Break apart.
in the beginning, even though, there's some doubt with Chuck and Earl, the family is tight. They're a unity. They're standing together.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell, you can kind of see all the pieces in the background, what Ken Kratz is doing, what the law enforcement officers are doing. They are slowly picking this family apart and turning
They
on each other.
tear them apart.
And it took, and I mean, when this explosion happens at the end of May, this has been going on for 6 months.
Yeah.
This has been going on for 6 months, and there's a lot of calls missing. We're missing a big, huge chunk of April and the first half of May. So
Yeah,
we
I
don't
was
know.
wondering where them are. Because to me, them are
Well,
pretty valid.
I heard a rumor. I don't know how accurate it is, so please don't take it verbatim. But what I heard was the calls that were requested were based off of the calls that Michael Griesbach requested for his book, and
Oh,
now additional FOIAs have been sent in requesting the missing ones and more. Again,
good.
I don't know how accurate that is. It's something I've heard a couple of times. Um, I'm just waiting for them to show up at this point. Whenever they arrive and they're available to listen to, I'll start again.
Right. So
So
you'll be the
that's
call
just
girl, so to speak. Not meaning anything other than listening to phone calls. You
I
dirty
get
negative people.
it.
So
I
let's
love
put
it.
that out there.
I love
But yeah,
it.
you can really see the breakdown happening, and it is heartbreaking. I mean, I personally know some family members and have spent time with them away from this, and have talked to them about it, and they definitely say that they wanted everybody to be against each other because that was the only way they were going to get somebody, anybody. They didn't care if the dog could talk, they would have had the dog under interrogation. I'm telling you, that's about how bad it was for them, digging and picking at every little string. If you're going to pick on children,
Right,
and
right.
let's say child abuse, because that's what I do feel that was, then you are not going to go anywhere that frightens you. You're going to go wherever you can. That's just how they were. So,
Right.
you
Uh,
know,
and I feel like, and you say you've listened to them. Have you listened? You said you listened to them all, right?
yeah,
Okay. So I don't know if you saw what I saw. I talked about this in a Thirsty Theory Thursday podcast that Foul Play did last week. All the stuff Ken Kratz was doing in the background, all the build up, all the lead up to Steven getting out of prison on that property bond, or out of the jail. He was getting out on that property bond. That property bond was, looking like it was going to go through. That paperwork was submitted
right,
on Friday the 24th, and all that stuff Ken Kratz had done in the background. He pulled out the Lori letters. He pulled out Marie. He pulled out, the salvage yard isn't worth anything. The soil is contained. I mean, he pulled out all
right,
the stops. I feel like he threw it all at the wall to see what would stick. And
right,
when Monday morning rolled around and nothing was sticking, and the judge had signed the papers assigning Dean Strang to the case and was issuing a court date for the bond hearing, I believe Ken Kratz gave the orders to
to
destroy Steven's alibi.
yeah.
That was the only
I
way they were going to be able to stop the bond.
Well, plus they put that extra charge on them, for the
Yeah,
gun.
they put a couple of
They
extra
did,
charges on him.
yeah, they did that gun charge too to keep them in to the last minute. That's how they kept him in to begin with,
Hmm.
until they jumped on that murder case. You know what I'm saying? Non-murder case, whatever it might be. I'm not going to put a
Right,
finale
right.
on anything because this case has got so many layers. Onion would be jealous. So
You can say that again.
yeah. So I mean, the key. Well, I never heard like Ken Kratz's name being mentioned or anything. Prosecuting attorney, DA, or whatever they called him in the phone calls. I don't know, but he seems to be in there a lot more than any normal case would be, if you ask me. I don't think.
Well, not only that, here's an interesting tidbit for you. In the book, he
Yeah.
talks about Mark Wiegert being in his office on the day Teresa's reported missing. So go with me for a minute.
Oh,
Teresa's
are you talking
missing.
about the phone
Teresa's
call where he says we got to change of plans?
No, 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 no. I'm not even on
Okay.
that yet. This is November 3rd. Karen
Okay.
Hallmark calls and reports Teresa missing at, I believe it's 2:37.
Okay.
And Ken Kratz writes in his book that Mark Wiegert comes to his office on November 3rd and says, don't quote me here, but basically Mark Wiegert says, hey, you're never going to believe this. We have a missing girl. Guess where the last place she was? So why was a district attorney already being talked to? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh,
Two
I
and a
following you. I'm following
so
you.
so so if business day is over at 5 p.m., what happened in 2 hours and 23 minutes that got Mark Wiegert to go to Ken Kratz's office and say, "Hey, look at this. What happened in that? Why so quick? What kind of investigation was done in those 2 hours and 23 minutes?"
Oh,
That
I don't know. Maybe they
you
came
have
across
a
maybe they came across a body on Custer Road or something. I don't know.
I have no idea, but it definitely leads a question. And I mean, those are Ken Kratz's words. Mark Wiegert's in my office.
Boy, don't I would have to say that you really have an insight on this because you read his book.
Yeah,
And
and a
you
lot
can
of people are
compare.
reading it
I
now.
don't know if you're like me, but I like take the transcripts and the phone calls and kind of, like seal it where they mix together. So you can take his book and
Mhm.
you've already seen the evidence and transcripts, and now you got the calls and his book. That must be an interesting perspective.
It is. And actually, it's funny you say that because Dr. Silkman had wanted to read the book. So I let Dr. Silkman read the book. And the things that he was pointing out to me, now remember, the book was the first thing I read. So the book
Right.
was something I read almost 2 years ago. Well, now I have all this knowledge.
That's what
So
I mean.
I read the book again in October. In October, I took a flight to Colorado, and that's how quickly the book is to read. I read it from Atlanta to Denver on a flight, and I got a whole new perspective. So now that you mention it, I think I am going to spend 3 hours and go read it again now that I've listened to those calls.
Right.
Because you're right. I can overlap some things and overlay, and that was how the note taking started.
Right.
Zoe had asked me while she was recording all the calls if I could, when I listened to them, if I could make note of who Stephen was talking to. So I
Yes.
was doing, that's how it started. I'd gotten through like the first 20 calls, and there was just little tidbits of stuff that I was like, ooh, ooh. And it just started happening. And then I just started writing them, and they were never supposed to be for public. They were just supposed to be for me and the rest to follow play. And the next thing I know, hey, let's do this and let's let other people read them. And here we are.
Yeah, and believe me, I appreciate the insight you have
So
because like if I would have seen the summary, like people that are just now hearing about the calls will see that and they'll be able to go over, because like I said, some of it is just there's so many calls that are just so tedious, but that was everyday life. And you also have to look at that. You're looking at it happening as it's happening while you're hearing it, so you can kind of put yourself back in that 2006, and go, this is what was going on. This is, his everyday life. And I like that because I'm always about the who, what, where, why, the whole complete picture. And that really
yeah.
helps it. It does really help it. And I would really be interested in getting your input on Kratz's book since you read that first. And now you're
Well,
very
maybe that'll be our
knowledgeable.
Maybe maybe after I'll go read it again, and then we'll go live
Gotcha.
again and talk about it. There you
You're
go. Well,
booked.
let's talk about Ken Kratz's. We call it a pamphlet. It's not a book. It's a pamphlet, and
Yeah. Well,
it's nonsense, is what it is. I'm sorry.
yeah.
That's
I call it the
that's
dying
my
of trees unneeded.
that's my verified purchase. That's my verified purchaser analysis of his book. It's nonsense, and
Yeah.
I have written bad reviews everywhere that I could think of.
Yeah.
It's
But it will help. I think it's going to like put a different kind of picture on things, and people will really be able to see it through the narcissistic person's eyes, and then through the capable vision of you and your commentary.
absolutely,
So I think
absolutely.
that would really can help. I'm looking forward to it. And yes, you're booked. So 3 hours from now, we'll book you for a couple days next week.
Yeah, something like that. We'll figure it out.
We'll get it done. Okay, if
Yeah.
you want to dig into like where you started hearing things, like we know the family was falling apart, and they were just, they were going at Jody hard. They went at Jody so hard that she said, I don't want these guys coming here no more. I mean, when I was listening to the call, for instance, I don't know the number, and I'm sure you do, where Jody is sitting there and or is that a video? She's sitting there and they're telling her about the phone call with Debbie,
Yes.
so yeah.
Yeah, that happens in February sometime.
So
I forget the dates, like February 15th-ish is when all that starts going down. Yes.
okay, so what's your take on how, just from the phone calls, what's your take on what the police are doing to the family?
grasping at straws. We know they were listening to these calls just as I was sitting there listening to them. They had nothing. So it really depends on your theory and what law enforcement's involvement is in this whole case. And I'm not with the popular theory that law enforcement, planned and did this whole thing.
Yeah,
I think the killer did a lot of the planting, and the cops are the stooges basically, and they're walking around finding these. I say they were on an Easter egg hunt, and they found these little eggs, and 2 + 2 didn't equal 4, so they manipulated the evidence to make it equal 4. They went around and they did everything they could to make Stephen look like this horrible monster to the public. And I think that's how they got people to change their statements. They went to them and said, hey, listen, this guy's a really bad guy. Yeah, okay, he was wrongfully convicted in 1985. Our bad, but look at this. We got to put him away. And because of that wrongful conviction, we need to make sure it's rock solid in order for it to stick. And I think that's how they manipulated people.
Right.
They went to Jodi because, they heard that little tidbit, and they had that report where the night she was drunk, he choked her or whatever she had said to the police. We hear her say in calls a million times that didn't happen. You can go either way with that. Did Jodi purposely say, yeah, it didn't happen because she knows they're being recorded, or did it really not happen? I think it really did not happen. I don't get I just don't get the feeling Stephen was that kind of guy. But I believe the police were digging, and they were trying to get anything they could. And I think that's why they went after Jodi. And all their attempts to get Jodi to work against them, or to work against Stephen, hadn't worked yet. So they decided to pull out the Debbie tapes.
Yeah.
The Debbie letter.
Yeah, that's just, to me, Stephen was using her to get things done. And you could tell.
He absolutely was. There might have been a slight interest in the very beginning when he didn't know what was up. He was starting to think Jodi wasn't on his side. He was definitely he stuck his toe in the water, but realized really quick that he had no interest in Debbie whatsoever. But she was eager and willing and able to do stuff for him. And poor Dolores wasn't capable of. Or couldn't run around or do, or it was because she was in another area, so she could cover a different part of the state for him. While Dolores handled this in Manitowoc, Debbie could do this, and I've heard her say it 100 times, and I still can't tell you where she lives. I try to block Debbie out. I think I'm mentally scarred for life because of her.
Yeah, there's some, when I hear things, I kind of make a visual movie in my mind, and there's some things that I could never unsee in my mind again. Thank you.
There was nights that I just had to, I would just close YouTube and jump over to Discord if people were there, and jump into the call and just completely interrupt the discussion that was going on, and just been like, oh my God, please help. I don't know what comes next. I'm afraid to hear what comes play. I had walked away for I think it was call 312. I walked away for a couple days. I was scared to proceed at one point. I was like, oh my, okay, well, I guess I got to prepare the fact that I'm going to hear some things that I don't really want to hear. And lo and behold, and then Jodi gets home from, oh my God. But yes, back to Jodi. That's why they went after Jodi. I don't think they wanted to. They knew that Brendan wasn't there. They knew that none of this made any sense. They knew that body didn't burn in that fire in his pit. It doesn't make any sense, even to the cops.
But yet they took Stephen's words with Brendan. Brendan, it was there. You can ask Brendan.
Absolutely.
And that's where I think they said, okay, let's just jump on Brendan and find out what he's all about. And when they found out that that he was more willing to teeter and go their way just to please him because he didn't understand what was really.
He was very suggestible. He was very suggestible.
Right. He was somebody that could be manipulated very easily. And they had a better chance with him than they did Kayla. Because Brendan kept talking. Brendan's a little bit older. People are going to kind of look at that. I can see their strategy. Let's just say that. Did you get the same feeling? I mean, they definitely, as far as I'm concerned, took what Stephen said and went after Brendan.
Oh, absolutely. Right down to the Steven getting sweaty during sex. That was what, see, that statement right there. Steven having that dirty phone call with Debbie where he says something about getting sweaty during sex. I remember jumping up out of my chair, leaving YouTube and running over to Discord going, all right, let's go, guys.
Yep,
What's
you know where
this?
the quote came from.
Son of a bitch. Look at this. Yeah, it was. So
Yeah,
yes, I
Kratz
did have
did
those aha moments. Yep.
so we can't thank Kratz for the sweaty thing then. It really goes back to Steven, and Kratz
Yep.
just sweated it up more.
Yep. That's exact. They grabbed it, they took it, they ran with it, and they sold it as hard as they could, and they overused it.
Yes, they
Yep.
poisoned the jury pool with the sweaty details that were none.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Absolutely.
right. So what is like one call? If you could pick out of the 839 calls, what call sticks to your head the very most?
I mean, they all blended together after a while. The call that sticks out of my head most is call 312 with Debbie. That was the, and
That's a
I'll tell
funny
you why. I'll tell you why that call is so funny to me. Because at this point, I don't remember what kind of day I'd had, but it had been long and it was late. It was really late. And I'm
yeah.
listening to this call, and her desperation was just killing me. And I was just, this girl is dirty. I copied the link to the call. I went and found her on Facebook and I sent her a Facebook message with a link to that call because I just wanted to hear herself. Because
Yeah.
at that point, I was just so angry that she was that pathetic and that desperate. And I wanted her to just, I wanted to slap some sense into her and tell her to have some respect for herself and some self esteem because this man is clearly using you. Please knock it
Right.
off. You're embarrassing. That's, I felt sorry for her, I guess.
Right. Right. Did
So
you get
that's
a
probably the call.
response?
No, I've never gotten a response, and she has not read my message.
Okay. Wow.
I wasn't
Something.
expecting one. I wasn't expecting one. I just had to do it. I was that frustrated that night. I could not believe what I was hearing. I
Right.
just had enough of Debbie's desperation.
Right. Right. Well, hey, I mean, you never know. If you reach out to somebody, sometimes they get back to you. I
Yeah, you
mean,
never know. I might have
Kratz does
gotten.
before he blocks you, at least, you know.
Yeah, I've never had the pleasure. I don't think I can. I
Uh,
can't talk.
I
I
have,
can't.
I've indirectly, been blocked because of something I commented on Twitter. Like I care.
Yeah, I heard he had a block party a couple months ago
Yeah, he just,
and
yeah.
just went around and blocked everybody. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. And then
I'm over it.
I also had the pleasure of meeting Lexus Gold or whoever his wife was at the period of time that I was commenting on a podcast he was on. And we exchanged civilly, but she never gave me anything solid. So I just quit feeding the troll. So
Yeah,
that,
you have
I call them jellyfish anyway, they're just damn jealous. We know the facts and they keep on fishing for theirs. So
to.
that's why I call
Yes,
them
yes.
that. Makes sense to me. So I mean, in the last calls where Steven is like, he's going to sue. I mean, let's put it this way. Steven sues. Steven sues everybody. It's his first
Yeah.
thing to go to is let's sue him. I'm going to sue my
Yep.
mother.
Yep. I'm
I'm
gonna
going to
sue
sue my
everybody.
father.
This is the last time I'm ever calling you. I'm all done with you. I'm suing the
Yep.
yard. You stole my car.
Yep. Why won't you give this? And why, well, the first call where Steven calls and talks to Chuck, that would be 828, I think it is. And he says, well, I want this stuff up there. I'm done. I'm done with all you guys. And Chuck just keeps on saying, well, no, talk to dad. And as it goes on, Steven is, oh, so you kicked Jody out. And why'd you do this? Well, his phone call with his father, when his father is talking to him and saying, well, she didn't do anything, Steven. You were there for you, Steven. How did that one stuck out to me, as you could feel the pain from his father, but yet the determination to stick his ground.
Well, and we're not there, so we don't know. I mean, but according to Jody, she's doing this, she's mowing the lawn, she's doing that. You hear her say that she's doing these things, and you hear them saying she's not. So it's hard, without being there, it's hard to know what was really going on. I think that I don't know what happened. I need those missing, and that's why I need those missing calls. I need, April 8th to May 15th is a big gap. And Steven
Right.
talks on the phone a lot. Look how many days, think about how many phone calls that is. That's what, 22 plus 15. That's 37 days of calls. That's at least
And they're
a
long.
couple
Some
hundred
of them are
calls.
long.
Some of them
Some of,
are long. Oh, I
yes.
love it when there's like a string of 5-minute calls. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna bang through these. Oh, great, there's an hour and a half one coming.
Right.
Those are the ones that I know I'm not really taking notes for. I plug my earbuds in and I go wash my dishes and listen to them because,
Right. Well, because you
it's
could go through the bull crap of it, and then all of a sudden at the end, the last 2 minutes, something could be said. That's what
exactly,
kept me glued. It
Yep,
keeps you glued.
yeah, and
I
that was
mean,
why I told people to listen to those calls that he gave, with the reporters and with Laura, because I thought those were important ones to listen to too, because he tells, the whole story. You hear everything. That's the other call that sticks out in my head. Let me see if I can find what number it is. It's the day that Strang and Buting came to walk the yard, and Laura is interviewing Jody, and they're all in the garage because it's quieter because Alan has the TV too loud. So Laura and Jody are out in the garage recording, and Steven finds out Chuck is there too,
right.
and he's just an asshole. And I was so pissed because he knew Laura was recording it, and I was like, the whole thing with the Jody and Chucky thing is, I'd love to know if there's like a real reason for him to be paranoid about Chuck and Jody, or is he really just paranoid because this is how he lost Lori?
Yes.
And
And, and, and I think that's it. Honestly, in my opinion, I do believe that is what it is. It's this paranoia of thinking losing her to another brother.
yes,
And he's in there. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that men in jail, because my husband was in prison for 14 years for murder, and he needed to be there. I wasn't with him during any of that. He was living a double life. It's a whole big story. Anyway, they tend to make you be the guilty one, make you,
right.
try
It's
to
your fault they're
control you
there.
through phone calls, and if they could, the only thing they have to use is their words. So
Yep.
it's mind manipulation, and I can see Steven doing that. When he's saying, well, that's it, I don't want this and this done, and otherwise we're done, we're through. He kind of cuts and dries everything,
Right.
and he's not tolerating. I can understand he's fighting for his freedom. Totally get it. Not against it whatsoever. I don't know what
Right.
I would do, but when he's talking about Chuck has, I think in Chuck's mind, I can't speak for him, but what I feel is that he's just trying to help his brother keep his girl around and help while he's not there. That's what it sounds like to me. He buys her cigarettes. I don't think they're really spending time together, like that. I think he just feels threatened. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think he's super insecure. I think he thinks Jody's going to leave him. I do. And listening to the calls too, I feel like you get to see what everybody was experiencing, and you get to, where Steven wasn't really understanding what other people were going through and what they were feeling. You can hear Dolores's pain. You can hear,
Yes.
you can hear it all. You can understand.
Yes, I agree. I really agree.
It's
It is.
heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
It is. His mother believes in him so with everything, every fiber of her body, and
Yes.
she is, when he's telling his mom, well, this is the last time I'm going to call because this and this, and you can just hear her want to say, well, no, Steven, but she just says, okay, basically she's just very quiet about it. You can just feel the pain in her little words she says.
Yeah.
Well, Steven, I believe in you.
Yeah.
I think that's what she says is, well, I believe in you from the start. Because he said somebody believed in him from the get go, and she says, I do, and you
Yeah.
can just feel it when she says that. It's painful, and if I have any money left, you can just keep it. And she says, well, you don't, but like their bills must have been extremely high for those phone calls.
Oh my God. I remember it was at call 194. I'd done the math and it was $2,500 for 36 minutes worth of talking.
That
And
is, oh,
I forget which phone call it is. It's somewhere in the 800s. I think it's when the fighting starts in May, the very first phone call I say to listen to.
yes,
$7,000.
$7,000 in calls.
Yes,
Yeah,
$7,000 to
yes.
say to talk about what? What
Yeah,
did they talk about for 7,000? How much of that money, how much of that was really relevant conversation? But yeah, I shouldn't say that because at the same time, it was Steven's sanity, and he says that a million times. I can't imagine. I
right,
can excuse every asshole thing he said. I can excuse every behavior he had on every single one of these phone calls simply because I cannot possibly fathom what that man was feeling going through this, not for the first time, but for the second time. And that
right,
moment when he says, they got me hooked, he
right,
knows. And you can hear him. You can hear how some days he's positive and upbeat, and other days he's just sitting there. He knows he's screwed. He knows they've got him. He knows it's,
right.
he knows.
Exactly. Yeah. I
He
like his
knows.
phone. I like his phone calls with Laura from, one of the producers of Making a Murderer.
I
And
do
when he,
enjoy those. Yes.
yes, and when he first talks to Myra, that was interesting. You never had met her, or anything. So, and that was
Hmm.
like her birthday. I think it was Laura's birthday that
Yep.
day.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and that I found that interesting too. She was like, trying to not be the middle person, but yet given, like, calm down, Stephen, a little bit about Jody, this and that, maybe you need to do this, or maybe, he was, she was like really sympathetic to what he was going through. She could see, the side
She
he
was
couldn't.
trying she was trying to get him to look at it with a different perspective.
Right. And well, because she could see what was going on the outside,
Right.
and he
Right.
couldn't. So, that is great. I mean, what did you think of the her conversations with Stephen?
Oh, I loved it. And I remember the first time that I thought it was her. And I remember running to the Foul Play Discord channel thing and jumping into chat and going, hey, guess what? I think that I found where Laura comes in. And turns out it was. I was very happy. At first, I was very angry because at first Stevens, I'm not
Right.
interested in her, screw her. And, Debbie's talking bad about it. She's just here for her story. And I'm like, no, no, no. I mean, we all know how this ends, but still I'm going, no, 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 no. She's here to do good. She's here to do good. And so, no, I'm very happy that she found them because had she not got involved in this, I'm
Right.
pretty sure you and I would not be sitting here right now.
Exactly.
Um, so I'm glad that she found them. I'm glad that she was able to convince them that I don't know what happened, but she was able to prove to them that she wasn't here for just a story and she really was here to help and be a friend. And I mean, that warmed my heart too. Do you remember the call where Dolores refers to Laura as her friend?
Yes.
That
Yes.
warmed my heart. You could tell Dolores was absolutely in love with her. And you could tell Dolores doesn't get happy like that with very many people, but
Right. You don't. She's very
no, she
protective.
doesn't. Yes,
But she's
she's
protective
very
of the whole
skeptical.
family. You
Absolutely.
know,
She's the mama bear. She says
she
it
is.
she says it all the time. I'm not smart, I'm stupid, but the woman does everything for her family. The men
Yeah.
are grown ass men. Chuck and Earl are grown ass men. Why is this 70-ish-year-old woman cooking their food
Yeah.
for them all the time? But that
Yeah.
was what she wanted. And I think I'm glad we got there because actually that's made me come back to another thought I had earlier. I think that's what her problem was with Jody. Jody wasn't going to be the doting wife, and she wanted
Right.
a wife for Steven that was going to treat Steven the way she treated Alan and her family.
Right.
Jody was too alpha. Jody was too needy. Jody was too buy me this, buy me that, make
Well,
me a
yeah.
princess type.
Yeah.
And
Well, she says it
Dolores
like,
wasn't
well,
having
she
it.
don't smoke. This one don't smoke when she was talking about certain
Yeah.
people. This one doesn't smoke, or this one don't drink. You could tell that that's how she was kind of, well, this one doesn't drink and smoke, so maybe that's, good. So, you
Right.
know, so you
Absolutely.
can see the
Dolores.
mother in her, even at
Yeah.
his age, and I don't think that, look, I'm a mom and I have older daughters and they have their own family and I don't care. I still am that way. So, I mean, if they come over, I want to cook for them too. I want to, it's the same thing. So, I mean, you really feel the motherly love, for Stephen through Dolores. I mean, that woman to me is his ultimate, supporter all
She
the way.
she is. She is. He's lucky to
She,
have a mother like her, because if he there's a couple phone calls where I was just like, Dolores, tell him off. Come on, stand up for yourself. So if he was my son, we'd have been having different conversations. But yeah,
yeah,
she's the perfect, yeah, she's the mother son bond they have, as toxic as some people may view it, or people judge it because it's not conventional. They do have but they love each other. That whole
but
family does,
yeah,
up until this.
that's
Up until this.
that's a classic Midwest family, actually, I mean,
Yep.
a lot of the country folks are really, you have family. That's who you spend the majority of your time with. You work with them, you live with them. And that is an ongoing thing in the Midwest. I mean, I can vouch for that. So when I first got into it, when he says, well, I don't know, I peed outside, and then I went to bed. Everybody's like, oh, hey, that's normal. I mean, to me, it doesn't sound too funny. To some people, it does, who've lived in the city all their life. Same with, like, in Making a Murderer too, when Kathleen Zellner says he hears bullets and, oh my gosh, it's got to be there, because he lives in the city. And if they would have painted the picture of a country setting and, talked about bullets, then nobody would really be shocked, because I wasn't shocked hearing about how many rounds of bullets and things that were shot around there and what they were shooting at. That wasn't surprising to me. You know what I mean? But it's just a different perspective in the global areas where you live, what you're used to. So basically around here, we don't think that's too strange.
No, and I don't either. Not at all. I'm from New England, where dysfunctional families are the thing too. But I love their bond. And like the phone
Right.
call with Barbara, I believe it's right after Brendan's arrested.
Yeah.
When he says, I would never do anything to hurt you. You're my sister. I love you. I felt that.
Yes.
I felt that. I believe Stephen would never do anything to intentionally hurt Barbara, and I believe he loved his sister.
Right.
When he tells Dolores, there's a couple phone calls, he hangs up with Dolores and he says, I love you.
Yeah.
I really believe it. You can hear it. And the other calls I really enjoy. I enjoy hearing him listen to Stacy.
I love
his niece,
Stacy and Carla calls.
I
They
just
were
feel
delightful.
like they were. I feel like Stephen's whole demeanor picked up a little bit, and he was a little bit more positive, and they tried to keep it upbeat, and he also wasn't being a demanding ass to any of them and demanding they do this or go do that. So that made the calls a little bit more pleasant. But you could just hear Stephen's whole. I enjoyed listening to him talk to Stacy the most. Stacy's a riot. He's a trip. He was funny.
Oh,
He cracked
and
me
I know
up.
him personally, and he's funnier than hell.
Oh, that's awesome. He
I got
seems like
to
a
spend
really funny
lots of
guy.
time with them guys, and they are what you hear on the phone. They really are. So, I mean, I could firsthand tell you them people are that way. And it was nice to hear Stephen having, some light conversation and some jokes thrown around, rather than all the seriousness that really was going on, even though it's needed conversation, obviously. It was nice to see that, Stephen had some jokes in there, and,
Yes.
got to relax, kind of feel a little bit, hey, I can relax a little bit. And I believe
Take his mind
Stacey
off it for a minute.
right. I believe Stacy did that the most, in Carla too. And they have always been on his side. That is a part of the family, that they didn't have bickering at him or saying things against him. So, give them credit for it, for just sticking through it.
And look, even when Dolores got her phone shut off, when she didn't make it to call it in on time, or make it to Carla and Stacy let him come over there, let Jody come over there, and he called and ran up their phone bill talking to Jody.
Right.
So
and
they
would do it still.
Absolutely, I'm sure they would.
Right. I remember a phone call when Barb is sick, and Stephen calls, and he's talking about, well, you got to get you got to get a good lawyer, and it'll be okay, and he's trying to kind of reassure her a little bit. And she says, yeah, my son keeps saying he wants to come home. And that made me realize that even in jail, before court, before the trial, Brendan didn't understand that he wasn't going to go home.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. So yeah,
he had no idea.
Right. Well, Stephen didn't know a lot about what they had against him either. He was like finding out things and going, well, yeah, that, blood on there. Why would there be blood there? If there was blood there, you can hear him stick to the same thing throughout it from the beginning until this day.
Yes,
Don't
I
you
wanted
agree?
to point that out. Yes, I wanted to point that out as well. That was the other reason, you know, the long phone calls with the reporter, the long phone calls with Laura. Steven is consistent. He's
Right.
consistent over those 6 months. His
Yep.
story never changes. And I can't even pinpoint one, but if his story does change, it's because somebody else said it was at this time. And he says, oh, you know, he was filling in a blank. His story didn't change. He was
Right.
filling in a blank. Because let's be honest, there
Right.
was nothing substantial about that Monday for him to remember his every move.
Right. Right.
I
Because he was
can't,
talking about
Monday,
the fire, and he was
yes,
saying, well, I had to fire at this time, and wasn't it gone? You know, you can hear him questioning the people that were there seeing it.
yes. And we hear Scott Taddick the day after Christmas at Barbara's house
Yeah.
talk about how little it was.
That's what
Really,
I was
because
leading up to.
by the time you got to trial 14 months and 2 days later, 1 day later, it was 14 feet high and
Yeah.
could take down Godzilla. I mean,
Right.
come on.
It was a roaring fire, pretty big. I can remember,
Yes.
pretty big.
Yeah.
We all also that as you're listening to him say, it wasn't, wasn't nothing, just whatever. When they're saying this, Scott, and was it Brian or Bobby that was there talking to him?
Bobby. He talked to Scott first and then Bobby immediately
okay.
next.
Right. So, that's where it was before they, started really digging in on them people, breaking up the family. I mean, Barb's kids didn't even want to come home.
Right.
Brian hadn't
Yep.
been home. They weren't talking to each other. They weren't seeing each other, family members. Barb was working all the time, trying to get, do whatever she could. You could hear her struggle. And I just lost my train of thought. That's crazy.
It happens. I do it all the time. And I remember what it was before you finished talking.
That's crazy. I'm like, what were you talking about?
We were talking about them building up the fire, and
right.
that's where they really started going after everybody. But what cracks me up is they were listening to these phone calls too. You hear Scott say the fire was small.
Yeah.
How badly did you impeach yourself? And what kind of laws? The fire was small. He says it, and you got him to say it was bigger.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we can tell that even when the prosecuting attorney says, "Well, if we just put the key aside, say it was planted."
Yeah. Even if the key was planted. Are you fucking shitting me?
And they got away, and the jury accepted that. So he was doomed from get-go. But what kills me the most is now that I've heard these calls, I can tell why and how they did it. Using his own words against him.
They did.
Right.
Steven wasn't the sex crazed maniac. Debbie was. But Ken Kratz used that because Debbie's the one talking all the dirty. Debbie, if we got a little pie chart here, Debbie's doing 96% of the dirty talk. Steven's mainly just agreeing with her.
Right.
And, he's really not doing much of the dirty talk.
He's just stringing her on. And
what he says he does to appease her.
Right. I totally agree. And it's, I don't know, it mainly bothers me the most now knowing that the phone calls that they were using it. You can see where as it's laying down, as their timeline is being made, you can see how it's being made through Steven's calls.
Absolutely.
And I really can't wait to hear that about your, commentary on that book, because now that's in my head. I'm just like, I won't waste my money on it, but I'll let you do it. You did it already.
I already have it. I didn't know any better. I already have it. And actually it I actually have it twice. I have I have the Kindle version, and then I have a subscription to a website called Scribed. And you could actually read it for free if you want to. If you've never had a subscription, you can go sign up for 30 days for free. And his book is on there, and it has the updated chapters. So you get the full experience. And I think it's www.scribd.com.
Okay.
And
I'll put that in there too, so we can check that out. Because I mean, look, if you can read it for free and you want to get a different perspective and see how Kratz wrote his book, according to how he got his narrative, according to Stephen,
Yeah, because
then I suggest you read it.
unless you're picking it up at a yard sale for 25 cents, it's really not worth the paper it's printed. I really can't believe somebody published it. I mean, I think it might have been self, but I don't know what he did, but it's very poorly for a special district attorney. He
Yeah.
writes very poorly.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That he is not a good writer. He doesn't know
It's
how to
very
put out a story.
I think Leah might have written it. I'm not even sure he wrote it.
When she was 10. And that was only 4 years before she got married.
Oh,
You know,
God,
well, we can go on about these jokes continually
Yeah. We'll
forever
save
and
that
ever.
for the
He
book
just sets
conversation.
himself up, that old sweaty guy himself, using
He
Stephen's
does.
words on that one too. So, but I have heard, tell me if I'm wrong, but there are something like 50 some odd discs or something with calls.
Like I said earlier,
Yeah.
I'm just repeating what I've heard. That's what I've heard, that there are 51 more CDs of calls on their way. And if my math is right, if there are no overlapping dates, that should be roughly 2,500 calls. If there are overlapping dates, I'm thinking 15-ish hundred. So I have no idea, but I'm going to listen to them all and I'm going to keep summarizing. It might be 2027 by the time I'm done, but I'll get them done.
We'll start a fund for good earbuds and psychiatric care for you.
Let me tell you something. I've used my AirPods more since these calls came out than in the entire time I've owned them. They live in my ear now. They're always there. I am going through withdrawal though. So whoever is in charge of mailing these CDs, can you please hurry up? Because I'm freaking out.
Oh, I know what you mean though. When you dig yourself into something and then it's like run done, it's like over. It's like, oh, I need more.
Yeah.
I need, so since you're a designated operator.
Pretty much.
And
I want to point out, I understand these are real lives. These are real people's lives. And I have all the sympathy in the world. And I really am a supporter. And the things I'm picking up by listening to these, first of all, there is part of me that feels like I'm being very intrusive.
Yeah, I did.
The other part of me says, you've been told 7 million times that you're being recorded and I didn't FOIA them. I'm just listening to them.
Right.
So,
right.
I feel like I'm being intrusive. Once I get past that point, I feel like I'm listening to find things to help my other friends that are researching things. Hey, I just heard this, like somebody was looking into something and I said, hey, call blah, 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 time this. They talk about that. See if there's anything in there that helps you with your theory.
Right. Well, if it wasn't for nosy people, let's call them, I call them wonderfully nosy people. Thank you very much. We wouldn't know half of the things we do. So whether you feel intrusive or not, we're only seeking the truth. So
and if it helps, if it helps get him out, I don't think he cares that we're listening to his phone calls.
I don't think so either. I don't think he would care if we were looking at, at film in his house. I don't believe that Stephen would have an objection to it whatsoever.
I don't think he has anything to hide.
It's for the greater good, and people, that are not, truthing and believing or even willing to openly look at this are going to say that we are intrusive and we are doing this. Well, okay, we're guilty, but we are doing it for a good reason. So that's what I thought of when I was listening to him, because I had told you, I felt like I was, breaking privacy or something, listening to their calls, because it's personal, but it is for the greater good. It's not like we're trying to use his phone calls against him like the state did.
No, not at all. No, not at all. We're using them to try to help him. Every single one of us that listens to them is doing nothing but trying to help him. Absolutely nothing.
So, well, we're getting close to an hour, and I don't want people to not watch.
Absolutely.
So is there anything that you want to elaborate on, say, announce anything? Go ahead. Do it.
I mean, find us at Discord on Foul Play. We have a conference call going. We're actually having a marathon conference call right now. It's been going on for like 120 hours.
Wow.
There's been people in it at all times, not the same people at all times, but we've managed to keep the call going. There's some great research going on the case. There's also some fun, every day personal chat going on too, but for the most part, there's a lot of great researchers on there, and it's great to brainstorm together. So go to the Foul Play Discord channel. There should be a link in the chat for that. There's a link in the chat for the Google spreadsheets. By all means, please use them. If you found anything that I missed or made a mistake, please let me know. I can update it instantly. We also started, it does not belong to Foul Play. It belongs to anybody in Discord. There is a FOIA server. We're trying to create a database so that people aren't FOIAing, so that you don't FOIA something I FOIA'd and she doesn't FOIA something he FOIA'd. And
good idea.
I believe there's also somebody possibly working on looking at the ones that have been denied. So if you've requested a FOIA that's been denied, come over to that server and go put it in the denied list. And we're trying to get this because we feel like there's some things that are being withheld from us that shouldn't be withheld, things that are being denied. And there's really not a good reason for them to be denied. So there's a lot of great people working on this case. That's why, working together is so amazingly awesome. I'm so glad the Foul Play team came and found me. I'm so honored to be a part of their team. I've met some wonderful people. I've met some great people. We've done some great research together. We've helped each other solve some problems and answer some questions. We have some heated debates, but it's always with respect. We all respect each other's differences and opinions, and it's great. So it's a great place to hang out. There's the Foul Play YouTube channel, and I think that's about it. We do the theories on Thursday and the coffee on Saturday, and actually this coming Friday, the 10th, Thirsty Theory is going to have a special one. Yes, it's a lot of people will be very interested in it. I'm kind of excited about it. I got to be there for the recording, and it was an honor, and it was it'll be a good podcast. So definitely check that out Friday night.
Yeah. Well, that's great because I'm looking forward to that too. And I was very honored to be on Foul Play's podcast for the last 2 Saturdays. And thank you. And I have joined the Foul Play and all these wonderful people. I've joined them on Facebook too. So it's you guys are doing great. I mean, and all it is team. It's everybody working together, and that is what we have always wanted. Eric Cozy preaches that all the time. Let's get together. So we're all going to get together. So I believe in that. And I believe it. And I love all of you guys. And I appreciate being accepted in it. And I cannot stress enough. Every time I got airtime, I say it. Go listen to the phone calls. They tell you a story. And Christy has broke it down in that summary thing. You can go over it and see what you want to listen to and what you might feel that is important. And there will be more coming, I hear. And you can go to Mill Billy's channel for that too.
Mill Billy's awesome.
Right? He is wonderful. And everybody, hey, let's just keep it going. Let's keep talking about it and let's make something happen. In my description box, you're also going to find the EDPA link to sign and share. Please sign that. And if you don't understand what EDPA is, there's a real good short brief tell you what it's all about on Andrew Whitehead's YouTube channel, and that link is also in the description box. And thank you so much, Christy, for being here and letting us hear what you hear and being a supporter. And I look forward to getting your King Kretz and that review.
Absolutely. We'll set that up. Thank you again.
Yep. Thank you, everybody who's been here. Thank you very much to Jane and Catnip and Mary and God Loves Me and Jax and everybody who's in my chat. If I haven't said Martha, I'm sorry, Eric Cozy. I don't want to go through all the names. It'll take me forever. But thank you so much, you guys. Love you. Peace. Be good and be kind.
Thank you. Bye-bye.